You hear a lot of talk about family values, but here's the thing. Family is what you make it. Some you're born into, some you build yourself. At Front Wave Credit Union, we fight for our community and every family that calls it home. Those are our values. And because values we got, value you get. With mortgages that can save you a country-sized wad of cash, like purchase, refi, VA, and even no money down options. Front Wave has the loans that make home ownership possible. It's what we do. Get started today at frontwavecu.com. Federally insured by NCUA, Equal Housing Lender.
Welcome, everybody, to Sports of All Sorts on the Grueling Truth Sports Network. I'm your host for Sports of All Sorts, Mike Goodpaster. And today we have a very special guest from the Beautiful Lives Project. I want to welcome to the show Bryce Weiler. How you doing, Bryce?
Hey, Mike. Thank you so much for having me on your show.
It's great having you on. And for our listeners out there, if you just Google Bryce Weiler, it will blow your mind, basically, the things that Bryce has done in his life. And Bryce, you want to tell listeners about you a little bit and about maybe your earlier life?
I was born 4 months premature, which caused me to be blind because the retinas in my eyes detached either from too much light or too much oxygen when I was in the hospital. The doctors were not really sure. So I had many eye surgeries when I was younger to maybe give me the opportunity to be able to see at some point someday. I grew up listening to sports on the radio, Brian Barnhart for the Fighting Illini and Don Fisher for the Indiana Hoosiers. And it was those two broadcasters who brought the sports of football and basketball to me and created pictures in my mind of the games unfolding on the court or the field.
Yeah, and so basically it was a basketball thing for you?
Basketball, also listening to football. I also listened to the St. Louis Cardinals, but really listening to Brian Barnhart and Don Fisher really changed my life and got me interested in sports.
Yeah, and the great thing about guys like those, like the Don Fishers, I'm a huge IU fan, was the way they can actually paint a picture for somebody like you're there, like you can see it in your head by the way they describe everything.
That's the important thing for a radio broadcaster is because so many listeners are driving around in their cars or not physically at the sporting event that the broadcaster is commentating.
Well, see, and I think that gets missed a lot nowadays because there's so many games on TV. I grew up listening to Marty Brennaman and Joe Nuxall with the Reds, and I think it gave me a more primal, aspect to the game, a deeper understanding of the game just from listening to them call the game.
Marty Brennaman just retired last year, and that was a really good radio broadcaster, Marty was. So it's sad that he left the game because younger broadcasters tend to commentate differently than someone who's been commentating for a long period of time.
Yeah, and now you have worked with the Baltimore Orioles with a ton of different teams. You want to tell everybody how that started out?
That started by me emailing professional sports teams, emailing their executive, CEO, president, and telling them what I wanted to do to help people of all disabilities be able to live their dreams through programs in sports and things like that. And the Orioles were gracious enough to give me that opportunity. I've helped the Orioles become the first team in sports to wear Braille on their jerseys to honor people who are blind. I have also given fans of all disabilities the opportunity to play on the field with the Orioles players and coaches at Camden Yards before 2 home games last season.
Yeah, and that's got to make you feel good because you know how important that stuff like that was to you when you were younger.
I knew how important that was to me when I got to Evansville because Marty Simmons let me sit on his Evansville basketball bench, which changed my life being around sports. And then you were coaching a football team in Evansville as well, and you gave me the opportunity to be around your Evansville Rage team, meet the players, do the coin toss, sing the national anthem, things I always dreamed about being able to do in sports. That was really important to me.
Yeah, and for full disclosure, Bryce was with one of my arena teams, and I don't even know how to go about this from here because you thanked me this morning for that, and I can't tell you how important it was to me and my team also. And I think a lot of times people kind of forget what's important, especially when it's sports. And a lot of people that are playing those sports or coaching those sports have a tendency to I think they're bigger than what they are.
That can happen with both athletes and coaches, and people ask me, what famous people have I enjoyed talking to? And I say, you don't have to be famous to enjoy talking to a person. I enjoy talking to people who understand life and enjoy helping others. And you were always so willing to let me be around the team and talk football and hang out with the players, and they were doing warm-ups, things that I'd always wanted to do. And I haven't really had that opportunity since you stopped coaching there in Evansville. Actually, I was on the field with a high school team in 2012 a little bit, and then a slight bit in 2013, but I haven't really had that opportunity to be down and close by football since 2013, and I really miss that, being on the field, throwing the ball, kicking the ball at halftime, things like that.
Yeah, and just after the Evansville with the Rage and Marty Simmons and the Evansville basketball team, what did you do for the Evansville basketball? Tell us some of the jobs you've had in the next 6 or 7 years.
So I didn't really have many jobs with Evansville besides just sit on the bench. Sometimes they'd ask me questions about the opposing team they were playing or things like that. I commentated games on the radio as a blind radio broadcaster at Evansville. Then after graduating from Evansville in 2014, I went to graduate school for 2 years. I studied sports there in graduate school. Western is where I went to graduate school. And after finishing up at graduate school, it was a lot harder to find jobs working in sports since I can't see. I thought it was bad in 2014. Lots of jobs are going to social media. So I decided to go to graduate school. It got even worse 2 years later. So that's when I took the experiences I had in college, sitting on the Evansville bench, the things you enabled me to do with football, the people that helped me be successful during my 6 years of college, and I started contacting pro sports teams to see how I could do programs for fans of all disabled groups. And it was through that I also got my work as the co-founder of the Beautiful Lives Project, because I emailed the owner of a pro sports team in Connecticut, the New Britain Bees, Mr. Anthony Icavone, told him about all the things I told to the other sports staff members from the Orioles, Yankees, Red Sox, teams like that. He told me he had a nonprofit and asked me if I wanted to be the co-founder of it, and I said that I would really enjoy doing that. That's how I got to the roles I have, the role with the Orioles as their consultant for fans of all disabled groups, and then my role as the co-founder of the Beautiful Lives Project.
All right, we have a question from a listener, if you're willing to take questions from listeners. And
I can take questions, yeah.
You can ask us questions either through the Grueling Truth, at Grueling Truth on Twitter, direct messages, or through Spreaker. And this was from John 12. And his question is, what's the process of calling a baseball game as a blind broadcaster?
So I would not do play-by-play. Someone would do play-by-play. They would commentate the pitch, and then I would talk about if that pitch was a ball or a strike. I'd give some facts on a player or a coach, or I'd listen to both teams' previous couple of games so I'd know stats on the players. I'd look all the players up on the internet and coaches to find out facts on their life story, because I just didn't want to quote off their batting average, whether it was baseball or softball. It was important to tell the story of these athletes and coaches. And then I'd try to speak to one coach from each of the teams who were in that game that I was commentating that day.
Yeah. Another question from Rob. Rob wants to know, let's see, what year you were in Evansville on the bench with Marty Simmons? What would it have been, 2013, 14?
2010 through 2014.
Okay. So what do you think of Marty? Former Bob Knight guy. I'm an IU fan.
Coach Simmons is someone who's really important to my life because he gave me that opportunity to be around sports and to be around basketball. I don't think many coaches would have given me the opportunity to sit on their basketball bench and to be around the team, go to practices, shoot free throws, have access to their practice gym so I could go shoot free throws and things like that anytime that I wanted. And it was through that I wanted to do the best I could to give back to people of all disabled groups to help them live their dreams, whether it's through my work with the Orioles or through my work with the Beautiful Lives Project.
Yeah, and I think that it's really sad that Marty Simmons, I think, is considered a failure because he got fired at Evansville. And I think it's really tells us a lot about society that kids that are in an academic situation at a college, for some reason, it's more important to win the games than anything else. And you got guys like Marty Simmons who were willing to go above and beyond the call and not just worry about winning basketball games. There was something more important to guys like Marty.
Coaches who understand that are not often understood by fans because fans only really care about winning basketball games. When you find a coach like yourself or Coach Simmons who really cares about the things beyond sports, teaching people to be high-quality individuals, giving others the opportunity to live their dreams or do something with their team that they may not have been able to do because of a challenge that they have in their life, those are the people you really want to become friends with and spend your life talking to.
All right, so tell us a little bit more about the Beautiful Lives Project and what they do.
With the Beautiful Lives Project, we set up events all across the country where individuals of all disabled groups can live their dreams by taking part, playing on the field with sports teams or the courts. That could be a high school football team, high school basketball, college football, college basketball, NFL football, NBA basketball, any other level of football, baseball, basketball, soccer, softball, and really just giving people the opportunity to play a sport they may not have been able to. We leave that open to individuals of all disabled groups to come to those events. Those are our sports events, our Field of Dreams programs. Then we do events in art where people who are disabled can learn how to do sculpture or painting. We also have events where they can go do things on a stage, do something with a play, learn how to sing, something with a choir. We do nature events where they can experience nature, going on a nature trail, a walk, or even going to the zoo. And we have in the range of 10 to 12 chapters all across the country. We're always looking to set up more. So if there's any of your listeners out there who want to set up a chapter, they can email me at bryce@beautifullives.org and ask me about that. We can teach them how to fundraise. We're looking for as many chapter presidents who want to help people of all disabilities live their dreams. We can help them set up events and find the individuals to take part in the events. We need them to have the passion to want to do these events, though.
So when you look at your life, I mean, is this what you want to do for the rest of your life?
This is definitely what I want to do for the rest of my life because making people happy is something that I've always wanted to be able to do, and being able to have lived my dreams with being around sports and commentating games on the radio, I want to help other people live their dreams and work with sports teams to make their stadiums more accessible for all disabled groups, not just picking one or two disabled groups that a team may want to highlight, but making sure every group of disabled individuals is accommodated for.
Now, I'm not asking you to name names here, but while doing this, with all the people you've emailed, what do you think the percentage of are people that are more than willing to do something to help other people as opposed to maybe the teams that just kind of ignore it?
I would say maybe 30 to 40% of the teams have really good programs, and some teams have programs that are decent, and some teams have programs that just do not really do very much of anything, but there isn't really standards set forth by the league. So I know how all the teams' programs are because I have researched them so much, and even teams that are in the same city have two entirely different programs, and they're located in the same geographic city even.
Yeah. So where do you see this going then? I mean, do you want to be with every team before this is done? Because I think this is something that is absolutely great that people should really get behind.
I want to be with whatever teams want to have us doing events with the nonprofit, playing on the court or playing on the field programs, and whatever teams want to have me help them make their stadium more accessible and make life-changing programs for individuals of all disabled groups, or to help them hire individuals who are disabled for employment in their front offices. And it's not what teams do I want to work with. It's hard to work with a team when they don't want you there. So the best answer to that is whatever teams or companies want me there, that's the people who I want to be with.
Yeah, and in the end, I don't know why anybody wouldn't want to work with this organization. And every team I've been with, whether it was high school or professional or whatever it was, I always wanted to do things like this because I think it's very important that you give back to the community that you're in. Because, number one, if you want the community to buy in as a whole in your program, you got to let them know that you care about the community, number one. And I think the big problem with a lot of these, especially like NFL teams, Major League Baseball teams, they don't really care. They've got their money anyways. But it's really impressive. The things you've done, Bryce, are things that people who don't have your disability could never even dream about doing. And I mean, you've got to be extremely proud of yourself. And to me, that tells me somebody who is my favorite word, which is relentless. Where did you learn that from? Were you born with it, or is there somebody in your life that maybe got you to look at things through the bigger picture?
People just told me in my life that I couldn't do things, like I couldn't be a blind radio broadcaster, and I just had to prove to so many people that I could do this. Or sometimes people told me I shouldn't email Rob Manfred or Adam Silver because they won't respond back to me. I'm friends with both of them. They mail me autographed items for charity auctions for the Beautiful Lives Project, and I just really, while I respect what people think of the things I'm trying to do, if I know that what I'm trying to do in my heart is something that I feel that is right and true, then I'm going to try to do it, no matter if people think it's something that I should be doing or not. For example, I'm trying to set up radio interviews across the country to inspire people and to help them make it through the tough times we're in right now, working from home and going through a very stressful time in this world. And one person who I'm really good friends with, who is a high-level sports broadcaster, said that I shouldn't be setting up these types of things to inspire people because it's not what people need right now. And he's someone who's been important to my life, and it had me stopped for about 20 minutes. And I thought about not continuing to set up any more of these radio shows to inspire people. But then I thought, well, I've inspired so many people already being on KMOX and the other radio stations that have had me on. I'm going to continue doing it, because just because one person thinks it's a bad idea, that's the only person who's told me that. Everyone else has been willing to let me on. They thought it's been fantastic. I've been on morning shows and sports talk shows and news shows on the radio, some podcasts as well.
Well, I would think in the times we live in right now, I think the more positivity we could get, the better, because when you turn the TV on, all you see is negativity anymore.
I think being positive is important, because if you're negative or you don't think things are going to work out right in your life, then they probably aren't going to work out right for you. But if you're positive and you try your hardest, people are going to see that, and that's going to make them feel more willing to help you live your dreams and to do what you're trying to do to help others.
Yeah, and I think that's a great message, because we all know, whether it's you, me, or anybody, everybody comes to a point in their life where they wonder why they're doing what they're doing, because sometimes you get a day where things just aren't working out. And to hear a message like you're putting out there can mean a world of difference to just one person. So if you could just touch one person while giving a half-hour interview, I would think that makes it worthwhile.
It definitely has been, because I've heard from individuals who've listened to my radio interviews, some of whom are blind, some have autism, some just were laid off and lost their job, and it inspired all of them to try to live their dreams and to make it through their life and to go for their goals. If someone told them they couldn't do things or they shouldn't change whatever job they're doing in their life, to go for it anyways if that's what they feel they should be doing with their life.
Yeah, and like I said, ever since the first time I met you, Bryce, I've been nothing but impressed. And I know we used to speak every once in a while, 4 or 5 years ago that I started a show. I heard from you actually through an email yesterday. And actually, the way you sent me the email, I didn't think you remembered who I was.
I did. I knew who you were, but I just sent you what I'd sent to all the other media people, because it took me about 45 minutes to compose that, and it's basically what I've used to get all my other radio interviews. And I thought, well, if it's good enough for those and it gives enough detail about what I've done, I'm just going to send it straight to Mike, because I'd actually been contacting radio people since 3:45 Central Time in the morning yesterday. I sent that to you about 5 o'clock. I was honestly about ready for a nap. I'm like, I don't know what I'd take out of that to make it different. I hope he still knows who I am, and I'm just going to go with it.
Yeah, all you would have had to do is put, "This is Bryce. Can I be on your show?"
Yeah, I probably would have done it instead of 4 paragraphs.
Yeah, because actually all I saw was the Bryce Wheeler and the phone number, and I just put you down that, we could do the interview. I didn't even read the rest of it. No offense, but I was sold when I saw the name, because I know this morning I called Jermaine, who was an equipment manager for that team, and I'm like, "Do you remember Bryce?" He's like, "He's that guy that sang the national anthem twice." I said, "Yeah," and I know he is an assistant coach for a football team down in Evansville, and I can tell you that I'm going to give them the phone number, and DeMarcus, the head coach down there, will be getting a hold of you, and they definitely want to do something with you.
Sounds good. That'd be awesome.
But Bryce, once again, you want to tell everybody where they can find thebeautifullives.org?
Our website is www.beautifullives.org. People can call me or text me if they have any questions about my life or the nonprofit, or they want to be a chapter president. My phone number is 812-899-5673, 812-899-5673. They can also email me at bryce@beautifullives.org. And hopefully we'll find some chapter presidents who want to be just like yourself, Mike, and give opportunities to people of all disabled groups to live their dreams in sports or any other programs, doing something with a cheerleading or a dance team at halftime of a game, or whatever people's dreams are in your city or town. We'll work to make them come true.
Yeah, and we are going to do more shows about this, because I want to get more in depth about the things you've done with different teams like the Orioles and stuff. So you want to do this maybe every Tuesday at 1 o'clock Eastern?
Every Tuesday at 1 o'clock Eastern time sounds fantastic.
Yeah, and if we have anybody that wants to come on and actually ask Bryce some questions, which I think I've already have one person that just sent me a message that said they would love to talk to you because they had some questions, then we'd love to have you guys on with Bryce to talk to Bryce, pick his brain, because I think guys like Bryce are the kind of people that you need in your life. You need positivity. You don't need all this negative crap all the time. And Bryce, like I said, I respect you more than you could possibly ever know.
It just really meant so much to me when you let me be a part of your team there in Evansville, because I really wanted to do things with football, and Evansville didn't have a football team, and I didn't know how I was ever going to get that, and I really miss being around football teams, and hopefully I'll be around some again at some point in the future. But if not, all the thoughts and all the experiences I got to have with your team, from getting assigned football from your team and the coach of the other team, because I actually did the coin toss for both their games when I played down at Evansville, and getting to meet your players and being around for warm-ups, those are really life-changing things for me.
Yeah, and it's life-changing for the people you meet, and I think that's the thing you need to realize. In every place I've been, I just want people to know that football's not the main thing there. I mean, yeah, you want to win the games, but in the end, it's the relationships you develop and the things you learn off the field that are more important than anything that happens on a football field.
That's definitely true, and that's something that I think individuals who live in the southern part of this country need to realize when they're so concerned about their ACC football coach or their SEC football coach not having success. Think about all the life lessons and people he's impacting, but they get so concerned about where is this player going in the NFL draft, or that quarterback shouldn't be doing that, and they forget that they're talking about individuals who are young and in college and trying to figure out their lives, just as this same football fan, son or daughter or cousin or friend may be going through in college as well.
Yeah, because I've always thought as a football coach, yeah, you want to win, but I think the big thing is that maybe 10 years after you've coached that young man, whether it's a professional team or a high school or a college team, that something happens in their life and they can recall something that was said or something that they learned when they were with my team that will help them be a better person.
Yes, because that's the whole point of a coach. Everyone talks about how coaches get into the Hall of Fame from the games they won, but it's the lives of the athletes and people that they've impacted that are the most important thing.
Well, how about this? From all the great football coaches that I've interviewed, players like I've had guys that played for Bum Phillips, and when a Dan Pastorini or an Earl Campbell come on and they start talking about Bum Phillips, it almost is like they're talking about their own father. And the one thing I have noticed, George Allen, Dick LeBeau, Marv Levy, all these guys, that when you talk to the players that played for them, their players truly love them. And I think that really the quickest way to win games and to get to the Hall of Fame is by showing your players that you care about them off the field and that you actually love them.
That is definitely the quickest way. And one slight alteration I would say to that is, if you don't make it into the Hall of Fame, it isn't that important. The most important thing, whether you make it into the Hall of Fame or not for whatever sport you're coaching, or whether you don't, is that you impact the lives of your players and the coaches on your staff, and you help them all be successful and be great men, women, or people in the roles that they want to do in their life.
Yeah, put it like this. I think it's really important, no matter whether you end in a Hall of Fame or not, that someday when you're 80 years old and you look back at your life, whether it's as a coach or anything else, that you're actually proud of what you did.
Proud of what you did, and that you did it the right way.
Yeah, and nothing's more important than doing it the right way. And that's why we had a show on Sunday about Rick Pitino. And I'm like the only person that doesn't think he should have a job. And I'm like, everybody always tells me, well, Bruce Pearl and all these guys did this and that. That's not my point. My point is none of those guys should be coaching anymore, because if I'm sending my 18-year-old son to play basketball or football somewhere, I don't expect the head coach to be hooking him up with strippers and prostitutes.
Coach P has been someone who's really influenced my life. Whenever Louisville won the national championship in 2013, he gave me a national championship ring. He made sure one of his players cut me down a piece of the national championship net when they defeated Florida in Louisville in 2012, when Florida was still coached by his former player, Billy Donovan. Coach P gave up his piece of Final Four net so that I could have one, and I have all those items upstairs. So I just have a different view of him from how he impacted and how he changed my life.
And that is why I brought it up, because I remember your story. So, and there's always two sides to both stories. That's why I said it. I wasn't trying to get you to say anything bad about him. I was just trying to get the opposing opinion of somebody who knew him.
Yeah.
If you know what I mean.
He probably has done some of those things.
Everybody's got warts.
Yeah.
But, all right, Bryce. Once again, that's the Beautiful Lives project, correct?
Yes, at www.beautifullives.org.
Hey, and as always, it is an honor to have you on the show, and look forward to doing it again.
Sounds great. Thanks, Mike.
All right, guys, real quick, I want to remind you can hear all of our shows at thegruelingtruth.com. You can follow us on Twitter at GruelingTruth. You can hear all of our shows on iHeartRadio, iTunes, TuneIn, Spreaker, Stitcher, Spotify, over 300 different outlets now. So make sure you check us out. For now, for Bryce Weiler, I'm Mike Goodpaster. You've been listening to The Grueling Truth, where the legends speak.
Value. A little extra fluff in your pillow, a little extra guac on your taco. Figuratively speaking, of course. But value is one of those values we care about at Front Wave Credit Union in a very unfigurative way. Like in $100 free kind of way. Just for opening a checking account. Front Wave cares about this community. And because values we got, value you get. Drop by, open a checking account, get $100. It's just about that simple, but some restrictions apply. Get all the details at frontwavecu.com. Federally insured by NCUA. DUA. DUA. DUA.